be fair, it's happened a few times now where I've tried to get you in show and you've been busy with transfer windows. So we finally get you in after a Carabao Cup win. First trophy we've had in coming up 6 years. So it's brilliant to have you on because I know how much you love United.
Yeah, it's good. Like, obviously, I think he kind of messaged me like the last 5 days of transfer window. I was like, "Oh, can we have it in the next few days?" I was like, "Yeah, United have actually started doing business now, so I don't think I can actually pop on." But yeah, it's good. It's good to finally have a chat, be on, talk about, well, as you said, Carabao Cup win and everything else.
Okay, so I'm going to let Nial lead in, and basically Nial's going to he's got loads of questions. I'm going to be like a little fanboy here, so you guys are going to have to please excuse me. Also, in case I want to say condolences on your uncle, and I loved your piece with your final argument with your uncle on paper. I thought it was absolutely a brilliant piece. Guys, if you haven't if you're not following Casey, it's at Casey_Evans_. Please follow him, read his stuff. It's absolutely brilliant, great insight. And check out Played on Paper at substack.com. Really interesting pieces there, and it's great journalism, really unbiased. He's not like our journalists I'm going to name, but it's really, really good work. Yeah. So I'll let Nial. Nial's got a load of questions, so I'm just going to sit here and enjoy.
Yeah. First of all, I want to start by just checking. Obviously, I don't know whether the viewers, listeners have, but have you guys read Erik ten Hag's open letter this morning to the fans?
I haven't.
I've seen quotes from it. I haven't actually read it. I was saving it for after my lunch. I was gonna have a read after I've had something to eat and just have a read for it.
Well, you'll find it out now. Then you can give your instant reaction to that. So in the open letter, he said, "To all Manchester United supporters, I wanted to take this time to address you directly this morning. When I arrived at the club, we spoke about the challenge and importance of reuniting this group of players with our amazing fans. Believe me, this squad knows exactly how important you are. The bond between the supporters and the team is there for everyone to see. And what we experienced together yesterday will only further strengthen that bond. The atmosphere generated by those at Wembley was incredible. From the first minute until the last, you were there with us, driving the team on, supporting and encouraging them to get over the line to bring the trophy back to Manchester. For those who couldn't be there, we felt your support before, during, and after the game. You know that each and every one of you will always play your part in this team being successful. I am proud of my players and staff for their preparation and performances. Yesterday, we saw the required desire, spirit, and determination that we must demand of everyone who represents Manchester United. We set ourselves high standards every day, and at Wembley, we met those demands and got our reward of our first trophy together." I mean, you can't not love him, can you?
Yeah, I think obviously he gets it. Like, you've seen this in all of his interviews, and he understands. Like, from minute one, he seemed to understand exactly what the culture of the club was, what the fans wanted from a new manager, and what everyone expected him to bring to the club. And I think he's been incredibly consistent throughout his entire time at the club with that. And I think this kind of just encapsulates all that together. But I think obviously his interviews that he did after the match yesterday as well were in the same vein. Like, he was making sure that it was just like, it wasn't like, oh, here we go, here's a trophy, congratulate us, we've done well. It was more like, yeah, that's just the first one. We'll get some more.
Did you see the press conference? Sorry to interrupt. Did you see the press conference where he walked away without the trophy?
He was like, "Oh yeah, I'll win another one. I don't need that one." It's like a proper. It was a proper like. Oh, he's got that Dutch wit where he's just very dry. It's the sort of It's the sort of thing that Van Gaal had in Overdrive, but I don't think he obviously has the same level because Van Gaal's just something else.
Yeah,
I love Van Gaal
so much. I think Ten Hag's a bit more level-headed with it though as well, isn't he? Whereas Louis Van Gaal, he just goes off on a tangent. It doesn't matter what he says.
Yeah, but you love that. You just love him chatting away. It's just great. I wrote a piece on my actual Played on Paper about Van Gaal, but we'll get back to Ten Hag in terms of I just think he understands it. He gets it. He's obviously he knows exactly what to say and how to say it and when to say it. Is probably what's very good for a manager, especially in terms of when early on in his career here. Well, we say early on, it's like a couple of months or like 5 or 6 months now. Yeah. There were people saying he didn't think he had it in him for the media. like he wasn't exciting. He wasn't trying to like big everything up. But I think it's just kind of been this carefully built up sort of momentum that he's got when he's been talking about it. And he always like says, oh, what we do on the pitch is more important than what I say here. So he kind of just goes, always like tries to, oh, we've done something good. Now I can kind of say what I want instead of going, I'm just going to big myself up and big up these players consistently and just say all this sort of stuff. Like even when we win, he's always like, didn't like that. First half, not good enough. He kind of knows when he wants what he wants to say.
He encapsulates the fans, doesn't he? He encapsulates the fans. This is what we want. We don't want to be resting on laurels or, I mean, come on, you'll remember from your work with Manchester Evening News. How many times was the winning team photos from training like it's an achievement? You know, they've got rid of that shit now, and thank God. Go on, Jody.
He hasn't got caught up with the fandom, to be fair, has he? He's just basically stayed very humble. He's made sure his staff stays humble. One thing I will say, there's a transparency with the players now where they are very, very humble and hungry. And you can see it. They're all hungry and they're all very humble and they all talk about each other. They all basically, you see it. You saw Casemiro after the game having a go at Bruno Fernandes for not squaring the ball. And your sister, I thought it was absolutely brilliant because you won the game, you won a cup, but you're still complaining about a pass. It shows the hunger of the players. To be fair, I mean, you can only see this team going further and further under Erik ten Hag. But I think the players that he's brought in with the leadership has been absolutely key as well with the leadership. So, Case, what's your opinion of the players that he's brought in and the impact they've made? I mean, I really want to talk about with Wout Weghorst since he's come into the team. How has he changed our style from pre-January to where we are now?
I think Weghorst is a very different player to what we had up front. Obviously, I think he's played a lot more than I'd expect him to, but I think that's just a case of Martial's been injured. I think that he's done quite well to say that he's basically came in as a rotation option and he's become a first-team starter consistently because of injuries. But yeah, I think he's completely different in that he knows exactly what's needed of him. He might not get the goals, which is something that I think he should try and improve. I'd like him to score more. I think everyone would like him to score more. But he's offering the work rate. He's doing the right things. If he receives the pass, like obviously there's going to be comparisons drawn with him and Ronaldo. And I don't particularly want to get massively into that because obviously like it just becomes a cesspit of just, oh, Ronaldo won all this in his career. Why can't he do it now? It's because he's old. There's no more argument needed. It's just he's older. Like it's a simple thing
with everybody.
Yeah. But
his brain is still younger than his body, innit? His brain still thinks his body can do.
But at the same time, I think like it's his brain still thinks his body can do it, but at the same time, he also doesn't do the stuff that he doesn't thinks he's below him. Like there's so many times where he came deep and received the ball and then passed it, and then just kind of just stood there and waited for everyone to just go, "Oh, give it back to me." When I actually turn up there, it's like, no, actually run there, like get into position, which is one of those things. And yeah, I'm not going to draw too much on that, but you see with Weghorst, he receives it, he'll run, he'll pass it off, he'll run on, he'll do all the sorts of things that you need him to do. I use this description for Casemiro a bit, and I think it kind of is the same for Weghorst in a way. He's a floor. He secures the floor, not raises the ceiling by himself. He's the guy that is in the team. I mean, obviously, Casemiro's kind of got all these goals, so I can kind of now say he probably also raises the ceiling and secures the floor. He does everything. He's the builder you want. He's the builder you want in your house to do everything.
He's the Roy Keane we've been looking for. Roy Keane we've been looking for. We just need a Michael Carrick now, don't
we? He's the structural framework, isn't he? He's not the aesthetic touches.
He makes sure everything around him ticks better so everyone else can do the work they need to do. That's what I was trying to say about Casemiro. And some people took that as an insult. It's like, how can you say that Casemiro doesn't raise the ceiling? I'm like, no. It's just I'm saying like him doing his job means that everyone else can do their job as well. Like can do their job.
On Casemiro, hasn't he scored and assisted more at United this season than many seasons he did at Real Madrid?
I think
if I remember correctly.
The case, yeah.
And he's added to it again, hasn't he? So he's not here to retire for a paycheck, is he? Come on. This guy is a winning monster.
He's on that video game and he started his new game plus. He's got all his experience. He's got all his points in. He knows exactly how to play the game, and he's like, yeah, I'm just going to make it harder for myself. Let's go again, shall we? Try and win it all again.
Well, apparently that leaked text message, wasn't it, to his agent after we got battered by Brentford? He said, tell him I'll fix this. I mean, if that's true as well, he's stuck by his word, hasn't he? Jesus.
Yeah, he's done a lot. I really like Casemiro. Obviously, like at the time, and some people have pointed this out to me since, I did have some problems with the deal. I thought, like, obviously the money involved for someone that age, obviously, like, it's one of those things that you won't see whether the deal is right until right at the end of it. It's like, yeah, he's 30 now and he's playing excellently. Will he still play like that in 2-3 years? And yeah, but in terms of his impact, there was never any doubt that the quality of the player was there. The quality of the player that we were getting right now and what he brings to the team.
For his, the price of the deal, was it £60 million for that, for his leadership aspects and what he brings to just on the leadership alone. Let's not talk about the football ability. Let's talk about the mentality. That leadership alone is worth 60 million because he's put something into that midfield where all the players around him have to step up, and there's no easy days. The mentality that he's brought in. To be fair, you've paid 60 million for a mentality monster. In all honesty, you can't really turn around now and say, oh well, what about his technical ability? Vocally, he's there. To be fair, even if he slows down in 2-3 years' time, you've still got a guy who's going to. It's almost what Fernandinho did for City. To be fair, you have to. I look at it like that. I think you've got to get players.
For me, the fact that Casemiro's there and he's got Lisandro Martinez, it's really brought out the previous world class Varane. He's playing his best football. He's really getting injured now because he's not doing all the donkey work.
You've got to look at Luke Shaw, Diego Dallo, Wan-Bissaka. Lindelof has become a lot better now in terms of physicality. And Harry, to be fair, is starting to get back to his best in his first 2 years. So you need players in there that can relieve some of this pressure. I think one of the key things that I saw yesterday, I say this a lot on Spaces. I say when you're closing out a game, it's always brilliant to have Harry come on and close on a game. He may not start. It reminds me very similar to the 98-99 season where you had Stam and Johnson as your centre backs, but May and Hennenberg came on closed off games and did really well, and they were key towards the season. There's no reason why Harry and Lindelof can't do that going forward.
He's got his fluidity as well. He likes to have players that can play multiple positions equally, like Luke Shaw going to centre back. You know, he has done at Ajax and he could do at United, putting Martinez into the DM position. He likes people you can do a job there, and I know it's not going to lower the standard of performance. And Matt's made a good point. Hi, fellas. Eric has breathed life into a corpse, cut meat using a spoon. E.g., the players at his disposal. How about when he gets the players he wants? I mean, it's total different levels, isn't it? If he's pulled this out of these players, that last season, the fans were all shouting at Old Trafford, you're not fit to wear the shirt, to now. He has done miracles. So if he gets the right players, I mean, we know he likes Frankie de Jong. Imagine Frankie de Jong next to Casemiro.
Yeah, I think obviously in some ways how bad we were last season kind of really undermined how good some of these players are. I think obviously like Marcus Rashford's a massive example in terms of his a lot of things kind of contributed to him not having like the best season last season.
I mean, I tweeted out last night when Rashford scored. I said last season he had the world on his shoulders. This season he's got the world at his feet. And Ten Hag has been a big influence in that.
Yeah, and I think the thing is like, I think it's one of those things where it's imagine if you were trying to build say you're trying to build a house. So like you have all the materials there, you have the windows, you have the doors, you have that, but you don't have any walls. Okay, sweet. We can't build a house then, can we? It's like, oh, it's a great start. I mean, yeah, I think we're still missing the back of the house, and I think we may be still missing some tiles off the roof. But I think like you actually can see what's being built now, and you can actually it makes sense. It works.
The foundations are there. The foundations are down now. We need to build the rest.
Yeah, and I think it's been a great season for that. And obviously, it's not over yet. I mean, this is always the weird thing with the Carabao Cup. It's like, oh, you win a trophy. It's like it's still February. We still have like 3 months left of the season. It's May in it, so you still have like You still have the rest of the Premier League season. We're still in the FA Cup. We're still in the Europa League. So that's 3 more competitions we still need to do something in. So you're looking at that and you're like, okay, well, there's still a lot to do. And I think as well, Ten Hag has done that as well, where it's been like, there's no celebrations last night. They're back in training this morning because we've got West Ham on Wednesday.
Yeah,
which is another thing.
They flew home straight after the game from London City Airport, didn't they?
Yeah, we have too many fixtures.
And then they've got West Ham at home. Can you imagine how rocking that crowd's going to be for West Ham? I actually feel sorry for West Ham coming to Old Trafford on Tuesday. Is it Wednesday, I believe?
Yeah, Wednesday,
yeah.
I really do feel sorry for West Ham coming to Old Trafford on Wednesday because United are going to be absolutely buzzing, to be fair. I can't see West Ham getting results. I really can't. I don't care if they've got Danny or whoever they've got or who are just scoring. I just can't see him coming to Old Trafford and getting any kind of result. It could actually end up being a multi-goal fest celebration for United at this rate, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, Casey made a good point as well. Sorry, Jody. Casey made a good point as well, saying about there's still more competitions to go. And I wanted to bring that into it from rival fan tweets yesterday and stuff like that. And we've got Ian here, who's a Newcastle fan, saying, I'd just like to say you've done us over, but we'll be back. And that first goal was definitely offside. And they did follow that up with what surprised me is you sort of out Newcastle does. I was expecting it to be the opposite way around, like we would be defending and maybe hit you on the break. And again, I think Ten Hag noticed that and tried to lull them into that false sense of security, or how come they're not playing this way, you know? But what I wanted to get into, and with him being a Newcastle fan, I thought I'd bring him in there, is are we back, or is it just the Carabao Cup? Are the rival fans bitter, or do they have a point? Because I mean, personally, I saw that trophy being lifted, and it was no bigger than a Sports Direct mug. You know, it looked embarrassing compared to the size of other trophies. And we all say if we don't win the Carabao Cup, we all call it the Mickey Mouse Cup, don't we? So, are we back, or is it just match day excitement?
I think obviously, like on the point of we out Newcastle does. I think that game was all about the first goal. I think that was the major point, is that in a league fixture, it's a bit different. You can actually draw and still have a positive result. But we're in a League Cup, it's kind of like whoever scored first. Like Eddie Howe obviously spoke about his time abroad. He spoke about his time that he's learned. Obviously, he says he learned a lot from Simeone's Atletico. You can see that quite clearly in how they approach big games. But yeah, in terms of what they were saying, is like, yeah, it was the first goal. We got the first goal. We then changed our game to fit that. And on the question of, like, is it just the Carabao Cup? Yeah, it is just the Carabao Cup. But the fact is what we've seen on many different teams over the years is one trophy is always good to help lead into the next one. And it is just the Carabao Cup, and that might be the only thing we end up with this season. But it's still a successful season. You still we will remember this as it was the first season of Ten Hag. We won the Carabao Cup. You won't go. We first won a season of Ten Hag. We didn't. We just were like,
You make a good point, because Ian, the Newcastle fan, agrees with it. He's saying we'll have it if you don't want it, because it is the building point, isn't it? That's where you build from.
Yeah, it's not. You can no longer go to like
more
United,
serious now. It's become more serious now since Klopp and Pep, because they took it serious, because they knew that is a trendsetter trophy, if you know what I mean.
It's just nice to have that point of you can go, oh, United haven't won a trophy in 6 years. It's like, sweet. It's like, oh, no, you can't say that anymore. You can just say, United haven't won a trophy in a day. Like, sweet. Okay, now we're going to the next one. You don't have that little asterisk and labouring point anymore. You're like, United are in a trophy, have won a trophy. United have succeeded at winning something. Sweet. Okay, now we try and keep that mentality and go and win the bigger things.
Do you want to read a couple of these out, Jody?
I'm just basically reading. To be fair, I'm looking at Matt's one now. Simon Jordan, Graham Souness, Gabby Obrongahor, and the anti-Ten Hag brigade have to eat humble pie. A steady Eddie doesn't win 18 trophies in 19 finals. To be fair, as soon as Casemiro scored the goal, I tweeted to TalkSport about that, funny enough. To be fair, I think what it is as well, there's a lot of people who don't want United to come back, because United coming back under Ten Hag, I think, is going to be something more dominant than in what we've ever been in the last 15, 20 years. because Ten Hag, it seems to me that he has Pep's number, he has Arteta's number, Klopp's number, and I just can't see anyone wanting to play us going forward now. Even beating Barcelona, top of the La Liga, how many shots did they have in that game? Did they even have any shots in against United?
I mean, I've noticed our shot count has gone up massively as well as the season's gone on with Ten Hag. Because we've been having, 17 shots, 10 on target, stuff like that. It's becoming regular now. And Solo's here as well from the Man United Agenda channel. He's saying, good afternoon, gentlemen. Great game yesterday. Ten Hag has been brilliant all season. Ian is still popping up, the Newcastle fan, but he's gracious in defeat. Ten Hag is doing a great job. We aren't an easy team to beat. No, you're not. I mean, look at your defensive record.
I think they've
conceded 50 Premier League. The next best was Arsenal with 23.
I think they've lost
great
entire season. I think that's it, isn't it? For Newcastle, I think they've had an absolutely brilliant season. Eddie Howe's done a magnificent job, seeing that he was fighting to keep them from relegation last season, and look where he's at this season, completely up at the end of the spectrum. It's whether they maintain to take a Champions League spot. If they do that, that's absolutely brilliant, to be fair.
And Solo said he thinks people do need to respect the cup a little bit more. And I think that ties into Pep Guardiola has started respecting it. So maybe we do, but we don't want that, do we? I mean, if that was only our only trophy, or if it was only a charity shield, a pre-season cup, basically. You don't... Oh, shit. Fuck off.
And I always say
you don't want it, do you?
I always say this, whether you win... February is the first trophy. You win that trophy, it's a stepping stone. It's a start of something else, that what you can achieve this season. And I think Pep said it well in his second season, when he finally first won the Carabao Cup. He did openly say it's a stepping stone. You get one in, it gives you knowing that you can go and get more in for the rest of the season. Now, I think we all know United are in another 3 more competitions. Premier League, we're 5 to 8 points, I believe, off. You're in the last 16 round against Real Betis. And then you've got the FA Cup last 16 on Wednesday. You can, if you start winning game by game, you can actually start, to be fair, calling a quadruple here, to be fair. I just don't see
it shows you halfway through the season you can win things. It gives you that confidence.
To be fair, look at the February we've had. We've played 8 games, 6 wins, 2 draws in February. That's absolutely outstanding. How many people honestly thought February we would play 8 games, win 6, and have 2 draws? A lot of people saying Barcelona was going to knock us out. They'd humiliate us over 2 legs watching the football they played. They said we wouldn't win half the games we've won. Crystal Palace would do us home and away. Didn't happen. So I can't really, in all honesty, I think it's exciting to be a Man United fan right now, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Ian, again, just before we move on, we'll move on to the FA Cup game on Wednesday, and I'll let you ask the questions to Casey about what it's like working in that industry. Is it cutthroat? Is it long hours? But Ian said a trophy's a trophy. Trust me, they're not easy to come by. And I do want to point this out that I saw, because it's disgusting. We had it a few days ago with Graham Potter as well, with death threats and stuff like this. And apparently another thing I'd like to mention is there's a streamer on YouTube called Team Review. So obviously a Newcastle YouTuber. His 14-year-old daughter was attacked after the game, just because they've lost. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. It needs to stop. I don't know why. I know we're all passionate about the game, but that's all it is. It's a game. Why are people sending death threats and attacking children just because you've been seen on YouTube or on TV, on Sky Sports or whatever, just because you don't have the same opinion? I mean, look at all the clowns on TalkSport, but you can't be sending stuff like that. And I just wanted to condemn that. It's a joke. It needs to stop.
So, I will agree with Nial here. Disgusting people. As YouTubers, you have to tell people respectful to other fans, players. They are human beings as well. They feel it just as much as we do. I've seen a lot of journalists get a lot of abuse here on the Manchester United forums for writing. I mean, I have a great conversation with Casey, Mikel Delaney, and you have to be respectful. Remember, they're human beings. Speak to them as you would expect to be spoken to. So treat them with respect. I will just finish off with that. Casey, I know you are probably one of the youngest Manchester United reporters out there. talk us through your journey. How did you end up being a journalist? How did you fall into reporting? And how did you end up in Manchester Evening Review News covering United?
I had a bit of an unconventional. Well, it's kind of unconventional. I went to UCFB. I did international football business, so I wasn't actually looking at journalism. I kind of like was half thinking about journalism.
Were you trying to be the Richard Arnold or something here?
No. I wanted to do something in football. I wanted to do. I was thinking about journalism, but I wanted to do something in football. I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go with what I was doing. So I looked at the course, seemed interesting, did that, went down to Wembley for 3 years. Yeah, no, and I was obviously in London when Tottenham were there, so it was mad living in Wembley. It was just full of people. But yeah, obviously then I finished off. I spent some time. I then spent summer with Stretford Paddock, which is now full-time. Stretford Paddock, which is now taken over full-time Devils and become its own big brand. And then I've continued them. But then I decided to do a master's in journalism at Salford. So that's kind of like my first step into journalism. It was kind of a little bit of a shift. I went in with a sports journalism. I moved to broadcast because I was like, well, it's a bit more of like broader skill set in terms of if you do broadcast, so you can learn a bit more, because obviously the sports stuff was a bit more sports centric. And I thought in my head, I was like, if I do a bit of sports stuff on the side while learning more about broadcast, it kind of gives me a bit of a wider net. So yeah, then I was still working at Stretford Paddock during that, volunteering, and finished there, needed a job. Spent 3 months as a creative assistant with a tech company. Honestly, I'm indebted to them. They were great. They took me on. I didn't really have much experience as a creative assistant, but they helped me out when I needed a job. So greatly indebted to them, and I say thank you. if they're still carrying on and still watching me, I'd say thank you to them. And the same with thank you with Stretford Paddock and everything. Along the way, everyone along the way, I'd like to say thank you to, because like the thing is like I feel like we sometimes get caught in this sort of rolling pile and just go, oh yeah, we've just ended up here, and we kind of just go, yeah, we did that, and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, but at the same time, it's so random how we can get here. So I'd like to say thank you to everyone so far. So yeah, we'll throw that a little bit back. But yeah, then I was working there, and I was approached by someone at the MEN. It's called Tom, great guy. He just wanted to talk to me, and I'd been recommended by Abdul Galoe. He's a great guy, honestly. He works for JD now. He was at Devils as well, and such a nice guy in general. I'm just being very thankful here. This is like my little bit.
Yeah.
Speech right now.
I feel like, and I've just thank you to my parents. I'd like to thank them. No, I just honestly.
Casey, can I just ask, was it you that's just won the Carabao trophy?
Yeah. I'm not as composed in press conferences as Ten Hag, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I've kind of just in some ways stumbled my way through it, and I've obviously put the work in alongside it. But at the same time, I feel like that's something that I need to say is like sometimes it is just an opportunity comes to you out of nowhere, and that's what the MEN opportunity was. I was offered a job as a fan brand reporter, I was focused on the fans. I was allowed to do a little bit more like outside the box content. We did streams. We did sort of like if we had an idea, we could go to them and kind of talk about this idea and work it through. So I did a lot of series. I did a lot of other stuff, and that was quite a fun time. And then obviously I moved on to the actual MEN sports desk for a bit. And then it's kind of I think this kind of leads into your question of how hard the industry is at the moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been some changes. There's been some teams moved about. There's been movements, and it happens a lot in terms of like other areas come up and they need funding and they need to be put as a priority. So other teams kind of fall by the wayside. And obviously, the fan brands was a new thing, and that was one of the teams that decided to be cut from the actual MEN. So and then I've been working freelance since then. I've been working at the MEN freelance. I've been working for Scouted Football. I've been working for other publications. I've just been putting in stuff, and I think that's kind of the thing. It's just keeping going at it, I think, is probably my advice.
So do you guys get sleep? I mean, have you got to be up at 4 a.m. till 2 a.m. sort of thing? Is it just relentless? Are you constantly on the phone, eyes in the papers, watching the TVs?
It's really hard to switch off, especially if you like football as well. it is incredibly hard to switch off. I think that's.
I'm messaging Casey at like 11 o'clock at night, 3 o'clock in the morning.
And you're 4 hours behind, so I'm getting that at 3 a.m. So
Casey's writing full sentences, like grammatical sentences to me at 3 o'clock in the morning UK time, and we're having a full-on conversation. I was like, Case, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. He's like, yeah, I'm just doing this thing.
I get it though, because like, Jody, how many times have I tweeted saying, right, I'm done in, shattered, going to bed, that's it, catch you all tomorrow, whatever. And then you'll see 2 hours later, I'm still tweeting.
then he does the same thing. Nial's very similar to you. He doesn't switch off. Me, when it hits 11 o'clock in Trinidad, which is about 3 o'clock your time, my phone goes on do not disturb till 5 o'clock my time. So I get my 6 hours in, and then it comes off, and then I'm back on it. But to be fair, I don't know how you do it, Case, to be honest with you, because I will watch your tweets, and they are literally like almost 24 hours a day, like consistently. If you watch the amount of tweets that Casey puts out, go in a week, okay, and just watch it for hours per day. I swear he puts out like 100 tweets a day.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn. I'm learning how to switch off is my thing. I think it's obviously a bit. It's my girlfriend definitely wants me to switch off. She'll probably see this and be like, yeah, he needs to stop tweeting. But yeah, it's one of those things, and sometimes that's not like the case of it. It's just like you turn on your phone for like 30 seconds, you see something, you type it out, you put it back in your pocket, and then you're just not touching it for another like 40 minutes or whatever. And it's
so true though. It tends to happen, doesn't it? I mean, like I'll say to my wife, she's like, she gets frustrated with me when it comes to the football stuff, because I do a lot of stuff down here in Trinidad with Premier League productions. I do a lot of fan zone and fantasy football. I don't know why they put me on fantasy football, because I'm absolutely useless at it, to be fair. But I do a lot of stuff with Fan Zone with Don Hutchinson's and JJ and Will and Olivia Bizargo, because I've known her for years through her family. So it's been, I find it, I know what you're saying. You're constantly watching football. Like we also have down in the Caribbean, we're kind of lucky because we get all 380 Premier League games. So I have the app to my phone, and I'm constantly watching football on my phone. I'll be driving. I can't believe I'm repeating this, but I'll get away with it because no one's paying attention to Trinidad right now. I'll swing around the phone holder, put it landscape, and just end up watching a game while I'm driving or in the car. I'm constantly watching football. My wife asked me, "Why are you watching the Tottenham Chelsea game? You don't even support them." And I'm like, "I just want to know what's going on."
I'm the same. It's just football.
It's just football. I said it's so when you
like Ian says, football's life. That's why we do this. You know.
So, okay, the question I'm asking you, career goals. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Because you've been doing this for a while now. I know you. I've been wanting to get you on a show, and obviously, I'm going to nag you for a transfer window. Come transfer window, you're coming back on the show. I won't put it at the end. I'll put it in the beginning and the middle, and not the end afterwards. So, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
God, I didn't know.
You didn't expect you were coming on to The Apprentice live on YouTube. Yeah, I was
about to say, I've not been grilled this much in interviews.
Okay. That's one question. Wait till the rest of them come out.
Oh God. Okay then. Okay. Yeah. Obviously, it's such a hard industry because it's ever changing, and obviously roles are different, and like it's such a. I'm doing the politician's answer, aren't I? It's such a fast changing industry. You don't know where you're going to end up. But like in terms of like. Yeah, you don't know whether the role that you want exists yet, and you don't know if you just went, oh, this is the role I want to the right people. They go, well, we can make that role for you, because obviously how the media industry is changing. I'd like to be writing for a publication that allows. I kind of have like a very broad idea. I like to write for a publication that allows me to kind of write the things that I want to write about. Obviously, I understand like in terms of. There are things that you have to write about, but I'd like to write for a publication that allows me to like write these longer form pieces that you kind of see on my newsletter, and I like well researched. I've had the time to write them. I've had the time to look them up. I'd like to be able to.
Do you want to be allowed the freedom of expression in what you write as well? Like you're not tied down to you can't say this because of that. And
yeah, I mean, obviously, I can understand like in terms of certain things. That's just how it works. Like I understand that in terms of there's not so much in terms of like broad freedom. You always have to constrain to some roles. But yeah, I'd like to be able to like write the stuff that I do and play the paper. But like if I went, oh, I actually want to talk about this Italian footballer, and I know this Italian footballer played with him. I have the contacts, or I can go to someone and go, do you have the number for them? And they go, yeah. and we'll get you in contact. And like, I can add that sort of in. And it's kind of like what I want to do, I'm doing now on my newsletter in overdrive. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to watch matches. I want to be able to do it like a bit more firsthand. It is sort of the, I can't tell you what the job is, but I have a broad idea in my head what it is.
Could you see yourself going into television?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was on YouTube for a while, which is all, and I did broadcast journalism. I think that shouldn't be the second notch in what I just said, but yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah, I'd love to do whatever.
Casey Evans at Sky Sports.
He's got a good run to it. I do like
start calling Casemiro a steady Eddie and Martinez too short and stuff, you know.
Yeah, I do enjoy talking about football. I do enjoy kind of just being able to express myself. Like, I obviously find it easier in writing because it's easier to get my point across. I find like you don't really, in terms of how social media is, and you both probably have encountered this in terms of how things can be clipped. You could say one thing and mean something completely different, but that's just how it sits. In terms of writing, it's very hard to do that. Yeah, in terms of writing, it's very hard to do that. If someone clips it up, you can go, okay, you just clipped up one sentence. Here's that entire paragraph. There you go. I don't need to write
the written word. It can be open into different interpretation depending on people's mindset. That's always been said. So it's a tough one especially when you're a journalist, to have your words taken out. It's always taken out of context, to be fair. So I think it's a tough one, because sometimes I see a lot of sports journalists now, after they write something, and now going onto TV to back up their words, or going onto camera to back up the words, so they get the full expression out there. Could you see yourself doing that in the future with Manchester Evening News or freelancing?
Yeah, I mean, whoever I work with, I'd be happy to do that. I like talking about football, as you have to know.
You could go all day like me, to be fair. Jump on a space and go all day.
Yeah, and I'd like to be able to have the sort of thing where I'm able to like round it out in terms of like, oh yeah, I've wrote something, I've rounded it out. I don't need to argue with people on Twitter for 2 hours. I can just sit down, I can read, I can just turn my head off, like, and just not think about football. Because like I said, it's just hard to turn off I think the fact that football is also your enjoyment side of it makes it hard to turn off and makes it hard to separate. Yeah. Because obviously you'll go from, oh, I've just finished writing about football. If it's my day off and United are on, I'll go watch United, or I'll definitely watch United. If it's another match is on, I'll just put it on the background. I'll probably still watch it. I obviously like Italian football as well. I have a podcast about Italian football that I've just started. So I'll watch a bit of Italian football as well. It's just kind of like I just need to separate. If I go out, I just need to be like, my phone's in my pocket. I'm not starting an argument with some random person who's not at the table. Let's do that.
I mean, it's a brilliant insight, because obviously you don't tend to get people coming on talking about journalism and what it actually entails. Is it difficult, or is it just a case of you get told something, you write it, and that's it? It's done. You know what I mean? I'm sure there will be some that do work like that. You know, they just write what they've been briefed and turn off again, sort of thing, until they get a phone call. But I mean, I'd say it's good to get that insight, because like, so you don't turn off, do you? If that's your love, football, it's there 24/7, isn't it? Yeah. The boss of the channel says, "Big up, boys, boarding the flight and watching you. Great show."
He let us loose. Imagine he gave us admin privileges for the stream. How bad is that?
We've got Ian saying, so here's a question I'd ask you guys. Who do you want to see as the owners? Qatar, Radcliffe, or Glazers? Are you able to comment, Casey? Are you allowed to have an opinion on that?
I'm able to comment. As I've said on Twitter, I'm saying enough not to is probably my definition. It's like I've seen either side of the argument getting obviously abuse from the other side, and I've just been saying enough to just kind of just been like, here's my general comment that involves both parties, and I like to make that clear before I say it.
Jody, you know when you asked him where he sees himself in 5 years, politician.
Yeah, exactly.
Sitting on the fence constantly. No, I obviously don't want Glazers. I'd like to point out I don't want Glazers. Like in general, the best case scenario is the Glazers get out of the club, and I think it's obviously the sort of long lasting legacy of their ownership that even them leaving has become such a problematic topic, because everyone should be just happy that they're leaving. And we're now in a position now where everyone's arguing about who we have, because the fact is that everyone wants this perfect owner that does everything that they want them to do.
There's no perfect owner.
Yes, exactly. Like every owner has their problems. Like the fact is like I'd like to say, like in the argument and the thing, like obviously, like the Qatari owners, there's all those things with Qatar and the sort of sports washing and that thing, and then obviously with Ratcliffe, there's the greenwashing and that thing that also applies to Qatar, but they kind of become two separate arguments. I'm like, well, okay, but it's also a petrol. Yeah, I'm not getting it. Okay, it's a petrol state anyway. But yeah, in general, I just think it's in a case of it's the long-lasting legacy that we just want them out, and it's just been like, okay, but we want an owner. Okay, who are the owners? There's not a perfect owner, so everyone's arguing. Nobody really wants the minority ownership because it's just kind of just waylaying the inevitable that they'll eventually sell, probably for more money when they have a stadium behind them and they have other things cleared, and United are hopefully better. But yeah, I don't know. I've just been sitting on the fence with it because I've been like, whatever I actually say doesn't matter at the end of the day. I think I'll make my comments once I know who the owner is.
It's never the right answer either, is it? It'll be the right answer to a certain side of the fan base, but it'll be a wrong answer to the other.
Yeah,
I mean, I won't sit on the fence. For me, the priority is to Glazers out first. Then we start scrutinising the ownership, the new ownership, bidders, buyers. But for me, I will go all out and say Middle East. I don't care which one. Middle East. I don't think Jim has the funds to sustain it after purchase. But that's just my opinion on it. Alvina has said, great show. 6 years of no trophy is over. Big up this channel. I just subscribed. Thanks very much for that, mate. And anyone else as well, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Ian, massive contributor on today's show, Ian. Thank you very much, mate. RIP John Motson, by the way. Whenever I remember a football thing, I remember it in Motson's voice. I mean, yeah, I think our kind of generation, Casey, we grew up with John Motson on our TV every weekend, didn't we? You know, he was a big part of us getting into football. I think commentators do help. You know, if you've got the right commentator with the right attitude, that bit of humour, they make the game more enjoyable as well. They do play their part in it.
Yeah, I was listening to Ian Wright's podcast, Wright's House, and he was obviously talking about John Motson and he said it's really weird when he thinks back on goals now, because obviously he's watched them ever since with the commentary and whatever. He hears them being narrated in John Motson's voice, and he hears them being narrated in obviously other commentators' voice that were like covering the matches when he did them. And he said obviously that the voice of football, and they're very recognizable. And UCFB, he came in and he had a chat with us all, and he talked about his life and he talked about everything, and it was really interesting, insightful, and you could see when he was talking that he genuinely loved football, so that's why he did it.
Yeah,
he just wanted to talk about football, and he obviously
Peter Jody as well. He's like a poet, isn't it, Peter Jody? Yeah. It's a shame that he's off the English games now. He's in America, isn't he, doing them?
Yeah. I said the best thing about I think obviously this is another podcast, Stadio, obviously Musa Okongwu and Ryan Hunt, great guys. I've had the pleasure of meeting Musa, and he's obviously one of the nicest blokes ever. But he was saying they were saying that the good thing about Peter Jody is he just didn't seem robotic. You could tell, like, when something didn't happen the way he wanted it to happen, you could just tell he was disappointed. Like the way he said it was like, oh, okay, it missed. Great. It's like, and you kind of miss that now with modern day commentators, because everyone's kind of scared because of how the reaction to commentators has been recently, where everyone's kind of just very annoyed by them and very like, oh, they're just kind of a bit of a nuisance to the rest of the game. They kind of now try they lean into trying to be... I think
that's the point Ian's trying to make here as well, isn't it? Saying social media makes it difficult, as popular opinions will always float to the top due to the algorithms. There's no right answers. I mean, in general, I could go, that's a mobile phone, Corey, but some people just say it's not. You know, and just they know it is.
I was watching I was watching a podcast with Marquez Brownlee. He's a tech reviewer on YouTube, and he was saying that the thing with opinions on YouTube and opinions on social media is it's very much like how you look at reviews for a product. Like if you see there's 5 stars on a review for a product in terms of like 1 to 5. He said if you look at a review for a product, you're never looking at 3. You're always looking at 1 or you're looking at 5. You want to know why people hated it, and you want to know why people loved it. You never want to know why people think it was just okay. And he said that's just how opinions work and how opinions cut through. No one cares if you just say it's just okay. They want you to say it's terrible, or they want you to say it's amazing. And it kind of like, I think that is really hard, because I think like people like John Motson and stuff lived in that middle ground where they appeal to both sides. And I think finding your voice as a journalist, finding your voice as a commentator, finding your voice as a pundit and everything, it's really hard to do that, because it's so easy to just slip into one or the other, because that's the way to get heard. It being the guy in the middle ground who can appeal to both sides and get heard by both sides is really hard to find.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a great insight again, because I mean, you're going to know that as well from personal experience with doing that work, and really appreciate you coming on and talking about that and letting people have a little glimpse into the world of journalism and what it actually entails. Jody has cut out. He's gone by the looks of it. So, I mean, we've already overrun anyway, because it's just been a brilliant conversation with you, Casey. Really appreciate it, mate. Score predictions quickly. We'll give that to the chat. Put your score predictions in. What are you saying for Wednesday against West Ham, Casey? Are we rotating?
I'm going to say 3-1, because I think we might rotate a bit, just because of how close it is. I think, or if we don't rotate, there'll be a bit of tired legs. That's kind of the thing. I think 3-1. I obviously I don't want to be overconfident, because that's kind of how we've been in the past, where it's like, oh, we're on a real big high, and then it just kind of gets cut from under us immediately. But yeah, I think we have enough to beat West Ham, and I think they've been struggling under Moyes. So I think 3-1 is my shot.
Ian's with you. He thinks that we'll smash them. We're flying at the moment, but like you said, we've been flying before and then shot down with a catapult or a AK-47 whatever a gun is. You know what I mean? I don't think we'll see too much rotation though, to be honest. I think maybe we'll see Sabitzer in with Casemiro instead of Fred this time. Martial might start, have 60 minutes, because he was back in individual training, wasn't he, last week? Eriksen's still weeks off yet. I mean, there is an update on Eriksen, by the way. He's come off the crutches now. He's still got the boot, though. The boot should be off next week. So I'll probably say he should be back in about 3 weeks. But I'm going to say 2-0 myself, Casey, I think. Like I said, not too much rotation, but I don't think we're going to go hammering songs with it. Just a nice, steady win.
I think we might rest Rashford and Anthony. I think both of them kind of need it. I think obviously like Rashford just wasn't sure about his injury, and he looked a little bit slow at times at the start of the match. Obviously, like later on, he got taken off. And I think Anthony obviously had that twinge right at the start that he played through. So I think just in general, just keeping them on the bench might be the best choice.
See, we've got a massive game after that, though, haven't we? Because we've got Liverpool after West Ham, haven't we?
It's just a juggernaut. This is what this season is. It's just like we don't have that. We didn't really have that deeper squad to begin with. We've now lost some of those because of injury, and it's just relentless. I was trying to say it's just match after match after match. There is no break, and this is the test with Ten Hag, because I think at Ajax, one of the major complaints a lot of Ajax fans had with him is like loved him to bits, did not rotate enough, and I think obviously he won the league, so he obviously got that, but he also won the league quite early on. I think like when they were saying like cup competitions and obviously his Champions League run, his teams just burn out a bit. Like they were just like, they just didn't rotate it because he was just so focused on winning. Which shouldn't be a bad thing. Yeah.
We didn't rotate in the Europa League group stage, and that's because the main team wasn't doing the job. They weren't putting them little teams to bed, or couldn't do it to even put a second string team out, because there was easy teams in the Europa League, but our strongest team wasn't even doing the job. So he had no choice, because he wanted to try and avoid that extra 2 legs that we had to face with Barca for no reason, because we couldn't do the job in the group stage. So it's difficult, and I think that's where he's kind of had to lay his hat now. It's just play his strongest team, just do it as often as you can, just try and keep the momentum, win what we can.
Yeah, he's definitely
I'm saying he thinks we are title contenders at the minute, and that Casemiro was a master signing, and it's no coincidence that your form has dramatically improved since Ten Hag slapped down Ronaldo.
I think my definition.
Are you going to give him a medal, Casey? Are we going to give him the Carabao medal?
Just do it. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, does it? It's just at the end. There's no point kicking up a fuss in general. Just give him a medal. just give it him quietly. If he wants to put it on his own social media, sweet. Like, just end it. Like, you don't need to like kick up another fuss. Just give him a medal of his own one and just move on.
Dubravka's getting one. Ian's goalkeeper. You know what I mean? So why not just give it Ronaldo as well?
I'd like to say on the title contenders thing, I think my definition for a title contender is that the majority of winning the title, to be a title contender, the majority of the like saying like if you're going to win it or not has to be in your own hands. I think that we're too far off Arsenal, that we need Arsenal to like majorly slip up. Like, we need them to lose multiple games in a row while we're winning for them to get up there. It's not just like, oh, they've slipped slightly and we've kept winning. Okay, we're ahead of them now. That's fine. It's not that sort of thing. I think it's just kind of like we need both Arsenal and City to slip up in order to get above them. So I don't think it's completely in our hands, and that's why I'd be a bit cautious to say we're a title contender, but that doesn't mean we can't become one if things start to go our way.
Yeah, I'm not getting excited running away with that one. No, not yet. Maybe in April, something like that. Be a nice birthday present to see us at the top. But apparently Dubravka has said he won't accept the Carabao Cup medal from us. I mean, fair enough. Is that the club that lost, isn't there? So
yeah.
And Casey, we're going to have to leave it there, buddy.
That's fine.
Like I said, it's ran on. Brilliant conversation with you. Really appreciate you coming on. Thank you to Jody as well, my co-host, who disappeared and left us here like this. But we'd love to have you back on again another day. If before the transfer circus starts at the end of the season, if before, please come on. Like I said, we could be talking about another cup next time, mate. So anytime you just want to come on, have a say.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to come back on and have a chat about transfers and whatever. And hopefully, as you said, hopefully celebrating some more silverware.
Oh, yes. Brilliant. Thanks very much, mate. Everyone like and subscribe. Say, give your love to Casey. Share the video. Let's go. Let's move on to the next trophy. Thanks very much, guys. See you in a bit.
Thank you so much for stopping by and watching Mufc Realist TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on the socials.